by saying that I was one of the architects for this our local government structure as you find it in the Constitution, because I was at the Consultative Assembly, and at the Consultative Assembly I served on the committee that actually crafted this local government structure, introduced Common Fund and the others, and then also we crafted provisions about how we want chieftaincy to be seen. So all these things are in one basket, and that if you want to touch one, then you necessarily would have to think through the repercussions on all the others. You know, this country began as a society governed by traditional rulers and so on until colonialism came in. When the colonists came, they even could not do away with the chieftaincy structure. The British, crafty as they were, saw that the chieftaincy institution was so deeply rooted in our culture. So they chose to go by indirect rule. So they ruled through the chiefs. So the chiefs were still there. So over all the years of colonialism, chieftaincy was not significantly impacted negatively. So as at the time they left, we now have a situation where constitutional structures were not properly ingrained in our system, and then the chieftaincy institution had also not been wiped out completely. So you have a system of these two parallel systems. So all governments after independence have tried to find a way of getting some fusion that will allow villages and our communities to run without controversy. So the time I matured to participate in politics, the first appointment I held was the secretary to the Town Development Committee. In those days, the local government structures were called Town Development Committees, where every village will elect committee members, but with the proviso that the chairman of that committee ought to be the chief of the town. So there was an interface that made it possible for the chiefs and then the constitutional structures to coexist without difficulty. Okay, so it has followed like that in one form or the other till we crafted this disassembly concept. So when we're crafting this, we realized that apart from the fact that these two systems exist, there has been attempt after independence to try to for politicians to try to interfere with the chieftaincy institution, weaken it so that they can have their way. And the opposite side of it was also that chiefs have tried to enter politics and then take advantage of political power for certain ends. So, and the results of this admixture of chieftaincy and multi-party politics has not boded well with the country at all. So we realized that because we had a situation where when one government is in power, there are a set of chiefs that will support that particular government, go and be praising them all over the place. But when the tables turn, then you see that a new set of chiefs who also support that new system, they go around and in all those communities, all those chiefs are distilled because government reserve the power of recognition of chiefs or derecognition of chiefs. So when my party is in power, I will derecognize all the chiefs who were in power during the MPP's time, for instance. And then the other way around, the same thing. So when we're doing this constitution, we took all these things together and said that let us carefully study this and come out with a structure that can accommodate everybody. One, we must maintain our chieftaincy institution as a very sacred institution, as a major pillar in the peace architecture in the country, so that it will be constitutionally protected, and then politicians will not be able to toy with the institution. But to be able to do that, we needed to also insulate chieftaincy from multi-party politics. So that's why we made two very important clauses that were entrenched. That chiefs should not participate in multi-party politics. At the same time, government should not interfere in the installation or instrument of chiefs. So when we now came to look at the local government structure, which will be able to accommodate the chiefs and their authority and how they can impact on building a community that will coexist, we then said that if chiefs were not going to be able to participate in multi-party politics, but they still would have a role to play at the local governance, then the way to get a solution is to end multi-party politics at some point, so that local government structures will be done in a non-partisan manner.
That's why it ends at the MP's level, the constituency level. And everything
that's how we created this thing. So now, fast forward, if somebody wants to introduce multi-party system at the local governance level, you need to sit down and think through what the repercussions will be. So is it the case that if political parties are able to sponsor and elect candidates from unit committee level all the way to district assembly, DCs upwards, and you have these constitutional structures aligned in such a way that it excludes the chiefs, because we are not touching the constitutional clause that bars chiefs from participation in multi-party. So if you bring multi-party to that village level, it means that chiefs cannot play any role there. So what happens? Would the chiefs be having their traditional authority there, and how does it interface with these constitutional authorities that will go to that level? For instance, if we have to go and do primaries to select candidates for unit committee, area councils and so on to the top, then of course they will owe some allegiance to the political party, and they will be subject to party discipline. Okay, so if we say that this is a party position, and when you go down there and that party position does not sit well with the authorities down there, those who coexist in that village, so which position should prevail? Is it going to be the chief's position, or other opinion leaders' position, or that sole political party position? It is something that we need to sit and think through. Apart from the chiefs, many other people have been barred from participating in multi-party system. You have members of the security, civil servants, and all these. All these people are permitted to play a role at the district assembly level and bring their experience to bear in shaping up communities in the way they want to live in. So bringing this thing down there means that they are all going to be excluded. So there are challenges there that we need to sit down and think through. And don't forget that even when we launched this, we promulgated this constitution, we had concerns being raised by the National House of Chiefs that preventing chiefs from participating in multi-party is an infringement on their rights. So they've been fighting this thing all along. Now, if even having given them space to operate at the local level, they still consider it inadequate, for which reason they are fighting for inclusion at the higher levels. What happens if you now go and exclude all of them up to the unit level? What will happen? And the system has benefited enormously with the experience and expertise of chiefs, traditional leaders, and other people at the local level. We have had several chiefs being presiding officers. We have had several chiefs being DCs and so on. without any problem, and their contributions have been so useful. Besides that, we have been able to allow some appointments, 30%, to the district assembly. And these appointments are also made in consultation with the traditional authorities and so on. So that is another important interface between the chiefs and the local governance structures. Now, if you are going to go fully, elected, it means all these things are going away.
So that's essential reason why you're opposed to the partisanship.
And all the functions of the district assembly, unit committees, and all those, several functions, more than 30 of them, none of them requires multi-party intervention before they could be performed well. Organizing communal labor, registration of deaths and births, and all these things. These are community activities that don't have to get into multi-partyism before they can be performed well. So,
so